I never thought a pile of firewood could bring chaos to my life. But then again, I never expected to be living under the thumb of a rogue homeowners association that thought it ruled the entire mountain. I'd moved to Silver Pines, a small scenic town nestled at the base of Mount Ashford, for peace, quiet, and fresh air. After years of city living and the noise that came with it, this little cabin in the woods felt like freedom. The house was simple: 2 bedrooms, a wood stove, and a creek that ran right through my backyard. I'd chopped and stacked my own firewood for winter, just like my neighbors. The real ones anyway. The ones who didn't act like wannabe mall cops with clipboards. The problem started 3 weeks before Christmas. It was early morning. The frost still clung to the pine needles, and steam rose off my coffee mug as I stood on the porch. Then came the knock. Not on my door, on the side of my shed. At first, I thought it was just a branch falling, maybe a raccoon, but the sound was too deliberate. I walked around to the side yard, and there they were. 2 men dressed in black jackets with HOA security stitched in white letters across their backs. One of them wore mirrored aviators, the other had a clipboard and a smug grin. "You live here?" clipboard guy asked, not even bothering with a proper greeting. "Yeah," I replied, cautious. "Can I help you?" "You're in violation of HOA Code 14-6. Unregistered combustible materials stored in excess on visible property." He tapped the clipboard like it was Holy Writ. "We'll need to confiscate the firewood." I blinked. "You're joking, right?" Aviator guy stepped forward, one hand resting casually near what looked like a taser clipped to his belt. "Sir, this isn't a joke. That woodpile presents a fire hazard. We'll be taking it for inspection and disposal." "Wait, what HOA? This isn't even a part of Silver Pines Estates. I checked that before I bought the place." Clipboard guy smiled like a man who'd heard that excuse 100 times before. "There was an annexation in August. Your property is under our jurisdiction now. Paperwork's pending." I could feel my blood boiling. "You can't just come onto my land and take my firewood." Aviator guy pulled out a laminated ID badge that looked like it was printed on a home printer. "We're authorized. If you have a problem, you can take it up with the HOA board. But if you resist, that's trespassing under our revised community code book." They started loading the firewood into the back of a flatbed truck like they were bounty hunters. I stood there, stunned, fists clenched, completely unsure of what to do. Call the sheriff? Try to stop them physically? That would only make things worse. And then I remembered something. Someone. Tyler. He wasn't just my firewood supplier. Tyler was a U.S. Forest Ranger, a federal officer with full jurisdiction over land like mine. The very same guy who had dropped off a load of seasoned oak the day before. The kind of wood that could heat a cabin through the worst blizzard. I pulled out my phone. "Hey," I said as soon as he answered. "We've got a problem." I gave him the short version. 2 fake-looking HOA security officers trespassing on my land, hauling away our seasoned firewood like it was contraband. I could hear his breathing change on the other end of the line. Calm, but firm. The way only someone trained to deal with poachers and forest fires could be. "I'll be there in 20, he said. "Tyler, I think they're almost done loading it." "Then keep them busy." I didn't hang up, just slipped the phone into my flannel pocket and turned back toward the clowns. "You got a warrant for this?" I called out, walking toward the flatbed. Clipboard guy didn't even look up. "Don't need one. Community bylaws override?" "No, they don't," I cut him off. This is private land, not a gated HOA community. And even if it was, your bylaws don't override state law. Aviator guy approached me slowly. His mirrored shades made it impossible to tell where he was looking, but his posture wasn't relaxed anymore. He didn't like being challenged. "You don't want to escalate this," he said. "I'm not escalating anything," I replied, "but I've got a federal forest ranger on the way. And if you two are wrong, this little operation of yours is going to go south real fast." That made them pause. Clipboard guy lowered the last piece of split oak into the truck bed and dusted off his gloves. "You called a ranger?" he asked, clearly unsure whether I was bluffing. "Yeah, and not just any ranger. Tyler Sloan. You might have heard of him." Aviator guy stiffened slightly. Tyler had a bit of a reputation up here. He once single-handedly stopped an illegal hunting ring operating on national land. The kind of guy who didn't need backup, because he was backup. I could tell they were debating whether to cut their losses and drive off with the load or risk it. They chose wrong. 20 minutes later, Tyler rolled up in a mud-splattered green federal truck with the U.S. Forest Service logo on the side. He stepped out wearing a tactical jacket, a radio on his shoulder, and a badge on his belt. Not the kind of guy you argue with when you're faking authority. He took one look at the truck, the wood, the two men, and then me. "These the ones?" he asked. "Yep." Tyler didn't shout. He didn't posture. He simply walked over to the truck, opened the tailgate, and began unloading the firewood one log at a time. Clipboard guy moved forward, holding up his faux ID. "Excuse me, this is HOA property now." Tyler didn't even flinch. "You're on private property without consent, removing goods without a warrant, and impersonating a security official under false authority. That's 3 federal violations and at least 2 state ones. I suggest you step back before you add resisting a federal officer to the list." The men hesitated. Aviator guy's hand twitched near his belt again, and Tyler noticed. "Go ahead," Tyler said calmly. "I'd love to call this in as an assault." The standoff didn't last much longer. They backed away, muttering about lawyers and jurisdiction. Tyler took photos of their vehicle, their fake IDs, and even their license plates. He handed me a slip of paper. "Keep this for records. I'll be filing a report." I stood there, still stunned at how fast things had turned. "What now?" I asked him. Tyler gave me a grim look. "Now? We figure out who gave them the green light. Because these guys didn't make this move alone." Tyler wasn't the kind of guy who left things half-finished. By sundown, the firewood was neatly restacked behind my shed, and the fake HOA goons were long gone, but the real work was just beginning. "Those guys weren't amateurs," he said, leaning against the hood of his truck as we sipped coffee on my porch. "They knew how to look official, used procedural language, laminated fake IDs, even drove a truck that looked like a service vehicle." "Yeah," I said. "They didn't flinch until your name came up." Tyler nodded. "Which means they're not just random scammers. They're part of something organized." Silver Pines had a few different neighborhoods, each with their own HOA boards. Some were small, just a few concerned neighbors keeping things tidy. Others had mutated into little tyrannies with rules about mailbox height, lawn color, and the shade of curtains allowed, but none of them had ever claimed the right to seize property. I had done my homework before buying the place. I wasn't part of any HOA. "I'm going to run their plates," Tyler said, pulling out his phone. I've got a contact at the county assessor's office. She owes me a favor." By the time he left that night, we had a name. Everett Blake, president of the Silver Pines Community Enforcement Council, a made-up title from a made-up organization that, as far as we could tell, wasn't officially tied to the county, the state, or any legal HOA charter. But it had an official-looking website, a P.O. box, and claimed to represent several annexed properties, including mine. Tyler leaned in through his window before driving off. "That guy's playing a long con, setting up a fake enforcement wing to trick homeowners into following non-existent rules. Probably collecting fines and fees too. But now we've got his name." The next morning, I drove into town and visited the county clerk's office. I wanted to double-check that my property had not been annexed or placed under any HOA jurisdiction. The clerk, a friendly woman named Marcia, pulled up the files on her monitor and squinted. "Nope, you're in unincorporated territory. That means you're not under the governance of any HOA, real or fake." That settled it. Everett Blake had lied, and those men had trespassed and stolen from me on his behalf. I drove straight to Tyler's cabin, where he'd already set up a whiteboard in his garage like something out of a detective show. Maps, names, newspaper clippings, a growing list of properties affected by Everett Blake's so-called Community Enforcement Council. "Check this out," Tyler said, pointing to a document. "He's filed paperwork under a nonprofit, the Second Creation Society. That's the legal entity behind his fake HOA." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that supposed to mean?" "No clue, but it gives him tax benefits and legal cover. He's smart. Smart enough to create layers between himself and the goons he sends out." "Then we're going to need to be smarter," I said, "because if he's messing with my land, he's probably messing with others too." Tyler nodded. "Already made a list." There were 11 properties besides mine that had reported suspicious activity. Unauthorized inspections, compliance notices, demands for fees. Most had chalked it up to annoying HOA politics, until now. This wasn't just a scam, it was a network. We decided right then we were going to expose Everett Blake and shut down his fake HOA empire before it grew any bigger. But what we didn't know was that Everett had eyes and ears everywhere, and he wasn't going down without a fight. It didn't take long for Everett Blake to realize someone was coming for him. Just 2 days after Tyler and I started digging, I found an envelope tucked under my cabin door. No postage, no return address. Just my name, typed in bold black letters. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Cease all inquiries into the Silver Pines Community Enforcement Council. You have been warned." It wasn't signed, but the threat was clear. I drove straight to Tyler's place with the note. He scanned it with his field tablet, checking for fingerprints, oils, anything unusual. But it was clean. Too clean. "Blake's not just paranoid, he's cautious," Tyler said, his jaw tight. This wasn't a bluff. This was a message. He was right. The next morning, I noticed tire tracks on the gravel road that led around the side of my property. Someone had driven up during the night, turned around behind the shed, and left. The firewood was untouched, but the message was loud and clear. They were watching me. Tyler and I met at a local diner, neutral ground, surrounded by regular folks in public. We needed to move fast before Everett got any bolder. I pulled up financials from that non-profit Blake set up, Tyler said over black coffee and eggs. He's collecting dues, hundreds of dollars, from at least 40 families. all under fake bylaws and made-up jurisdiction. The guy's pulling in close to 70 grand a year. All tax-free? I asked. Every penny. We had enough to go to the sheriff, but Tyler wasn't convinced that would work. Everett knows the law. He's not doing anything blatantly illegal on the surface. We need evidence that connects him directly to the fake cops who took your wood. Otherwise, it's your word against his, and he'll claim it was a misunderstanding. What about the other homeowners? I asked. The ones you found who got fake notices. Think they'd talk? Tyler nodded. Some are scared, but a few are willing. We arranged a meeting with 3 of them that weekend. An older couple who had nearly paid a $400 pest control fee, a widowed vet who had his shed padlocked by strangers claiming to be code enforcement, and a single mom who was told her Christmas lights violated neighborhood illumination policy. Each story followed the same pattern: intimidation, fines, threats of action, all linked back to Everett Blake's made-up HOA. We documented everything: testimonies, photocopies of fake citations, even security camera footage from the vet's backyard showing 2 of the same men who had taken my firewood. Clipboard guy and aviator guy, we had them. Tyler filed a preliminary report with a federal liaison in the state capitol, but we knew it would take time. And Everett wasn't waiting. That night, my motion lights tripped at 2:13 a.m. I woke up to find a shadow slipping behind the trees near the edge of my property. No sign of a vehicle, no footprints in the snow, just a rope tied to my fence post, one end frayed like someone had used it to anchor something, maybe surveillance. They were watching closer now. I didn't sleep much after that, and neither did Tyler, because what started as a scam was quickly turning into something darker. Tyler didn't wait. By sunrise, he had wired motion sensors, hidden cameras, and perimeter alarms around my property. The guy moved like he was back in ranger training, eyes scanning every shadow, every broken twig. If Everett wants to play games, Tyler said, we'll make the board ours. The final straw came 2 days later when my internet cut out, followed by my power. At first, I thought it was a storm, but the weather was calm. No wind, no rain. Just a quiet morning and a dead grid. I followed the utility line through the woods and found the problem. Someone had cut the cable. Not chewed, not damaged by accident, cleanly severed with bolt cutters. That was it. We were done playing defense. The trap. Tyler and I came up with a plan. We wouldn't wait for Everett to send it goons again. We'd bait them in. We staged a decoy infraction. I installed a huge, obnoxious metal sculpture in the middle of my front yard. Bright orange, 6 feet tall, and completely made of scrap. Ugly as sin. Something no HOA, real or fake, would ever tolerate. Then I added signs all around it. Protected property, no HOA jurisdiction. It worked faster than we thought. 2 nights later, the cameras caught them. Clipboard guy and aviator guy returned, this time in a different truck. No plates, no uniforms, just hoodies and gloves. They moved in silently, flashlights off, heading straight for the sculpture. But what they didn't know was that we had tripwires, silent alarms, and hidden trail cams triggered by infrared sensors. Tyler even rigged a wildlife drone to track heat signatures. As soon as they touched the sculpture, Tyler hit the spotlight from his truck and lit them up like stage actors. He stepped out, holding a shotgun, not pointed at them, but enough to make a point. "Step away from the artwork," he said. The 2 froze. One started to run, but Tyler's drone followed him through the woods, live streaming his location to my phone. Within 10 minutes, the sheriff, who we'd tipped off ahead of time, arrived on site and took both men into custody. Turns out they were private contractors, ex-military, hired through a shell company linked back to, you guessed it, Everett Blake. And this time, there was no ambiguity. Trespassing, attempted vandalism, conspiracy to commit property damage, and, thanks to Tyler's recordings, criminal impersonation and fraud. Blake had crossed the line and the law was finally catching up. With clipboard guy and aviator guy behind bars, Tyler and I knew Everett Blake wouldn't go quietly. People like him rarely did, but now we had proof, documents, videos, and contractor records that tied everything back to him and his fake HOA scheme. Tyler handed everything over to the federal liaison and the county prosecutor, and within 72 hours, the case went public. Headline: Fake HOA ringleader investigated for land seizure scam. Local news stations camped outside Everett's gated home. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains as county officials served warrants. Even his so-called Silver Pines Community Enforcement Council website was taken down overnight. But the real moment of justice came when we learned the truth behind Everett's motivations. The master plan. Everett had been playing the long game. He wasn't just faking HOA rules to fine people, he was targeting properties like mine. Out-of-the-way plots, no official HOA oversight, valuable land. He'd been building a portfolio. Dozens of forged compliance violations led to homeowners either selling out of fear or abandoning their land. Blake's company, Royce Renovations, a side business he kept hidden, was buying up those parcels at dirt-cheap prices. His ultimate plan? A private luxury resort, complete with golf course, hotel, and gated community, all built on land he'd strong-armed from working-class families and veterans. My land? It was supposed to be the scenic entrance. That Firewood theft? A warning shot, a message, but it backfired. Big time. Once the feds confirmed the shell companies, the fake nonprofit, the Second Creation Society, and the web of fraudulent documents, Everett Blake was indicted on over 24 charges including criminal impersonation, racketeering fraud, conspiracy to commit extortion, trespassing, and unlawful surveillance tax evasion. The homeowners who'd been scammed, they banded together. Tyler and I helped form a legal defense group. Class action lawsuits poured in. We even got restitution. My firewood was returned. So was everyone's peace of mind. Blake? He's awaiting trial in county jail, denied bail. Clipboard and Aviator? They flipped on him fast. Gave up everything in exchange for leniency. As for the fake HOA empire? Gone. Dismantled from the inside out. Epilogue. Winter comes. It's quiet now on the farm. The snow finally fell, crisp and clean across the hills. My woodpile is stacked tall again. No strange trucks, no phony notices, no HOA horror stories. Just the crackle of a fire and the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes justice does catch up. And if it needs help, well, there's always a good ranger nearby. Fake HOA cops seized my firewood, froze when my supplier was a ranger.